Everyone, it has been an incredibly snowy 28th of April. Can you believe it? I ran up to to Alpine to run an errand really quick, and it was coming down hard. I just, so for those of you in the South, especially the ones that I went to high school with, that think snow is just awesome, I've just got to tell you, it is awesome in December. In January and maybe February. February, we're starting to get a little tired of it. By the end of April, we're done. I'm just tired of the snow at this point. Oh, I'm kind of cracking up because I wasn't expecting to get up to snow. Just not something you expect at the end of April, maybe at the end of December. And you know, it does kind of take a little bit of the shine off when you're still dealing with it after, let's see, November, December, January, February, March. Almost 5 months out of the year, almost half the year, we're dealing with snow here. Can't really complain too much because I moved here voluntarily, and a lot of this was because I like the snow, like a lot of very foolish Southerners. Fortunately, fortunately, I've lived in upstate New York and Germany and here, and I've learned to drive in all kinds of snow. It's not that big of a deal. So, except that it's cold. It's cold, and folks, I'm wearing capris. I'm not dressed in short sleeves. I'm not dressed for the snow. This is crazy. Anyway, to kind of get back on track, a friend of mine called me today, and he said he's been watching a lot of my videos. He was complaining that there's some stutter because I do film these from my PC. I have specialized software that's supposed to help with this. I'm not finding any stutters on the replay or any problems at all on the replays. If you are having problems, please comment below and let me know. I don't actually like to use my phone to do these broadcasts unless I'm not at my desk. If I'm outside, then it makes sense for me to use my phone, but it seems kind of silly for me to use my phone when I'm sitting right here at my desk. And I have a wonderful webcam and a very lovely setup and expensive software to do this with. So just let me know. Let me know if you're having problems seeing this, whether it's live or Memorex. So I wanted to talk a little bit. My friend was kind of offering, and Brett, you're wonderful. Thank you so much. If you, kind of as a plug for their business, if you have any problems with your car, or you're not sure if you have problems with your car, or you just need an oil change, Edgemont Service in Provo on Canyon Road or 300 South. The 300 South location is just 2 blocks from the temple, so it should be really easy to find. That's where I am 3 mornings a week, slaving away with enjoying doing their books. So I just wanted to kind of give them a shout out. They have been very devoted clients, and I really, really appreciate their loyalty, and they're fun people. They're great, and they're honest, and sometimes it's a bit of a challenge to find. So Brett suggested that I kind of do some contests, and I wanted to talk a little bit about that. And I also want to kind of start doing Q&As. Now, he was suggesting that I start a group, and I'm not sure yet if I want to do that because I get these wonderful insights through my business page. So I'll be spending the weekend thinking about that. But I do want to start doing some Q&As on Fridays. Again, I go online about 5 o'clock, sometimes a little bit after because I get very busy. Sometimes I forget to do things like eat or go onto Facebook. It's because I find my work very engaging. But to be honest, we all know bookkeeping is nobody's favorite thing to do. Most people find bookkeeping about as engaging as watching paint dry. I talked yesterday about client engagement and how vital that is. Again, I really kind of struggle with the idea that someone would pay me to do something and then just go, well, you take care of it without, I wouldn't let someone color my hair without my input, you know? I wouldn't let someone cut my hair without my input. I wouldn't let someone cut my hair to start with, as you can see, but um, I wouldn't pick up makeup colors without my input. I wouldn't assume that anything to do financially is just going to be fine without my input on it. It's my money. And but I understand that most people find bookkeeping to be about as interesting and engaging as getting a root canal with no anesthesia. Right? So what I really want to know is what your questions are. I have been doing this for a very long time. And I have worked with many different companies, and I have had wonderful clients, and I have had less than wonderful clients. And I have had clients who thought that I walked on water, and I have had some that, not so much. And that's kind of the nature of the beast. Bookkeeping is a very competitive industry. A lot of people think that they can just take an online course and then they're going to be good to do books. But I have years of experience. I started off doing accounting type work at a big hospital back east. I think I've told this before. I really started off as in the food industry, the fast food industry. McDonald's was my very first job. And to let you know how competitive that I am, I was the only, the store that we worked at in the mid-'80s, they would put the girls up front where we could stay nice and clean mostly, although I still went home smelling of rancid shortening every night. But we stayed up front or in the drive-thru where, the assumption was that people coming up to the counter would want to see pretty girls rather than guys. And the guys all worked the grill. Well, I was the only girl that I ran the drive-thru, both windows most nights. I hustled a lot. And then before too long, I was also asking to train in the back. I was the only one that would work both a breakfast shift and an evening shift and a dinner shift. And I probably would have worked 60 hours a week if they'd let me. Overtime laws, doggone it. And that was for $3.35 an hour. And I thought I was just making bank. Of course, I was in high school. So by the time I left, I was a trainer. I was teaching everybody that came on everything that you need to know about how to work at a McDonald's as a crew member, from how to run the grill, how long to cook the patties, how to put together the various sandwiches, how to assemble an order. They're very particular, or at least then. I've noticed that there's been a lot of changes at McDonald's, but at least then, it was still a lot like what was shown in the movie The Founder. We had 6 steps. And anyway, I was the one. I was the trainer. I was the crew chief. I was taking care of all of that. And then I went to work for Papa John's Pizza, and I went from being a delivery driver to management within 6 months. And was assistant manager at 2 different stores. And then from there, I started working for Western Baptist Hospital. So I went from managing a store to learning how to do accounting. And I had a pretty good idea of it because when I was 14, my grandmother Harris, my father's mother, owned an electrical and plumbing supply store, and she taught me actually how to keep a ledger book and how to take inventory and a lot of things that, as a high school student, you don't really realize that you are someday going to need to know. And I went from that, and then I went into the fast food industry, and then into the pizza into a pizza business. And then I started working at Western Baptist Hospital, and that was some of the best years. I mean, I really loved my time there. And I was in patient accounts, and what that means is I worked with Medicaid patients, Medicare patients, the older patients. And so everything would be submitted electronically, so we didn't have to do a whole lot on that end. But after the payments came in, we had to make sure the payments were posted correctly, and then we had to contact the customers, the patients, or the patient's family, and make sure we had all of the secondary insurance information and ask for payment for any leftover balance. And so that was kind of my introduction to real accounting. Okay, so I was in accounts receivable. That's what I did. Worked there for 5 years and really, really loved it. And then I came out here to Utah. And when I came to Utah, my first job here was an office manager for an FBO at Provo Airport, which was a really cool job because I got to meet all these celebrities. I met Robert Redford and Larry King and Steve Young and Steve Covey and Sean King, Larry King's, I guess now ex-wife, Sean, and a couple of Osmonds, and it was pretty cool. Most of them were really nice. A couple of very, very well-known ones were a little standoffish. I was more interested in meeting the pilots. It was pretty cool. And that was kind of my first glimpse of just what it takes to run even a very small business. And this was not a very small business. I really loved that job. And it turned out not to be such a good fit. I ended up leaving. And then I went to work as a temp for a company that makes candles and lotions, and it's not very well known. I don't think I've ever heard of them again after I left. I heard of them for a little bit, and I'm not sure what's happened to that company. But they brought me in, and they gave me a list of uncollectible debts, people that owed them money that they couldn't collect on. And my thing, especially with debt collection, and I've mentioned this before with the guy threatening me for a debt that I did not owe. When it comes to debt collection, I really feel like you catch more flies with honey than you do with vinegar. So I would call these people up, and I would very, very sweetly tell them, hey, I noticed that you're a little bit late on your payment. Is everything okay? Is there anything I can do to help? Do you need to split up the payment on this? I mean, these are just soap and candles. It's not the end of the world. It's probably a little bit, but these were stores that were selling it. It was cost of goods for them. And so I would just talk to them and find out what was really going on. And I'd send out a lot of letters. And within 3 months, I had collected $250,000 of previously uncollectible money. May have been closer to $500,000. And as a reward for that, they terminated my position because my 40-hour-a-week job, I had worked it down to almost nothing, to being done by Wednesday, So they decided someone else could do my job just as well and laid me off. Of course, I was a temp, so couldn't complain. And I kind of went from that to really, my next thing was to own a virtual assistance practice where I was a remote secretary. And in the process of doing that, I'm learning everything I can possibly learn about QuickBooks. And then I started doing bookkeeping for multiple small businesses. And started another bookkeeping company, and not really sure how far I should go into that portion, but I have worked with about 200 different small businesses of various size. Some of them have become quite large now, and some of them went out of business because they actually didn't do what I told them to do. Some of them turned out to be kind of learning, especially very early on. They were kind of learning experiences for me. But at this point, I have about 25 years of bookkeeping and I've also worked for H&R Block. I do not like to do taxes. I don't do taxes, but I know enough about taxes to be able to give some reasonably good advice, to at least be able to clear the way through the jungle of tax code. So I have this 25 years worth of experience, and with all these different companies, and so there's not a whole lot that at this point I don't know. If there's a possible to make a mistake, I've made it, to be honest. And a lot of this is learning on the job. It was kind of learning as you go, which means that I really learned the hard way. But because I learned the hard way, those lessons really sank in. So now I'm starting again. So I found that I really enjoy bookkeeping. I really do sincerely enjoy it. I know a lot of people think it's about as interesting as watching paint dry. It's difficult to do these videos every day and come up with a fresh new subject when all I can do is kind of put a fresh new twist on the same subject I've been talking about for 2 months now. So that's kind of my background, for those of you that want to know. I actually went to college for computer science. I got 2 years into it, and well, I got 1 year into it and went home to Kentucky, and then got married, had a baby, and got married again, moved to Germany, had a couple more babies. And so, when you have these big gaps in a field that's growing as fast as computer science, which is now even further specialized into information technology or systems analysis or coding, and I was more interested in the systems analysis part. Before too long, it really only takes a couple of years and you are having to start all over again. But bookkeeping and accounting is not like that. The principles remain the same. If you understand a debit from a credit, then it really doesn't matter if you're keeping your books in a 12-column ledger book, or if you're keeping them in QuickBooks or Xero or FreshBooks or any other tools. All these softwares is tools to help bookkeepers do a better job, or accountants. So, if you want to know if I have a degree, I do not have a degree in accounting. I have equivalent experience, and then some. I will, however, be returning to school shortly, hopefully by the end of March. What month is next? May. It's hard to remember because it's snowing outside. By the end of May, I will be working through a university that allows work at your own pace, and so I fully expect to test out of most of the material and be able to get a 4-year degree in maybe 1 or 2 years. And then I will be looking at whether or not I want to complete an MBA. So, because I can't have my younger brother do better than me, and he's working on his MBA. So, I do pursue a lot of continuing education. Oh my gosh, it's 5:30 on a Friday. No wonder my brain is fried. I do work a lot on continuing education and trying to do a better job. Again, I've talked a little bit about competition and the different kinds of competition. And I had forgotten about this story from the 1990s when Tanya Harding had Nancy Kerrigan kneecapped so that she could win at least the national championships and in figure skating. And I thought, that's the bad kind of competition. I don't want to do that kind of competition. The kind of competition, the way I am competitive, is not to force everyone else to be worse. It is to be better. So if my brother makes straight A's in in school, well, I have to make straight A's. It doesn't mean I want him to suddenly start making C's. It means I want to excel. If I know that I need another year of college to get my degree, and someone else is doing a little bit better because they have their degree, well, by golly, I'm going to go and I'm going to make better grades too. And it's not because I want them to bring their game on. I really want them to bring it. I want to see how good they are, and then I want to be just a little bit better. That's kind of how I'm competitive. I don't believe in, forcing anyone down or making anyone worse off to compete with me. I want them to be their best, and then I want to be better than their best. Anyhow, that's kind of me rambling today. Have a wonderful Friday, and I will talk